No.
You need a name, okay.
Yeah, but we have multiple kids right now. We have the grandmothers.
I saw Don briefly. Let me think about it.
Part of that's coming to terms with it. Like, people don't have to parent the way we want to. Yes. Well, I think that's we have standards, but they're not necessarily even. Oh yeah, they're not closing those cases because of our. They're not closing those cases open until so, you know, because the judge almost gave up jurisdiction, and then the very last minute they pulled it.
Yeah, this has been 3 times.
How's it going?
So these are my in-laws.
I was gonna say, do you have like a left eye, right eye difference now?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I had LASIK like that before, and so it's like, hey, it was the first thing I can, but I really can't tell. I know who you are, but I don't know. Well, that's what I thought, but
They say no.
and I have
Good luck, Sharon. Yeah.
No, I'm still doing this, and still adjusting because these are just hard.
So you got some cheater. Yeah. Doing like my mom does, where she doesn't even wear them. She just sits there.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, I'm not saying anything this morning, so I don't have to say anything. But at home before I came here, I looked at your notes from the last meeting about CASA, and they're very impressive. And I'm busy working on Jimmy Johnson's judge candidacy. Yeah, so we're working on that. We are working, we have 2 rules. We start every meeting with prayer. We never, we don't focus on that. I know the very one of them.
No threes.
Yep.
That I know of.
We're not focused on that. We took a vote.
We'll call the meeting of the Public Protection and Judiciary Committee to order. And Janet, would you want to take the roll, please?
Bob Fiedler.
Present.
Present.
Kathy Leaf.
Present.
Tim Ramberg.
Present.
We have a quorum. And I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Supervisor Ramberg,
Second.
seconded by Supervisor Adams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Nays have it. Public comment. Is there any public comment today? Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to our business items. And our first item of business is we're going to change the order slightly, and we're going to call on Sean Kinsella, who's the director of CASA, the Court-Appointed Special Advocates Program for children in St. Croix County. And after Sean has made his presentation and has an opportunity to have questions and answers, we'll call on Judge Waterman as well. Mr. Kinsella.
Good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. I want to just preface this with one caveat on our annual report. Our books aren't actually closed yet, so this is going to be very close, but not all the last-minute December expenses were in. So we'll probably have higher expenses, but revenue's all booked. So if you could advance the screen. I wanted to really talk about some key performance indicators that we were targeting. And one of them now that we've gotten to be a little bit older is how long we are retaining our volunteers. And we have an 80% retention rate. Our goal is what we ask the volunteers to dedicate is 2 hours a week for a year, so 52 weeks. And after that year, 80% stay on. Now, in truth, the vast majority of those cases that they're working on are also open. And so they're really showing true dedication to those children, staying on past that year. And that's because they're just forming great relationships with definitely the child and the family. And I ask them all the time, do you enjoy being an advocate? And the response is very positive. So total advocates, we attained 31. We did go through the holiday this year where if the case is resolved, the advocates did ask that they could take the rest of the holidays off. So starting about mid-November, we didn't pick up really any new cases. So right now we have 6 advocates who are waiting for cases. So as the year starts up again and more cases come through, we'll have 6 in the wings, and then we're looking to start a new training here at the end of January. And so we've served 50 children last year. So if you multiply that out on an average of 2 hours a week, and that doesn't include all the court reports that they do or additional team meetings that they might have to participate in, their supervision, you can quickly do the math and realize that we came up close to 44,000 hours of volunteership, which is a tremendous cost savings and has a cost value. So we calculate that value based on our average hiring range, and then look at the total hours and multiply that out. Number of children that were returned to a safe and stable home was 10 last year. And then the board had a goal for itself to recruit 2 new board members, and they recruited 2. So we hit all of our key performance indicators that we were striving for. Next screen, thank you. One of the big things that we had that I addressed last time was the VOCA program, which is Victims of Crime Act. We now will be able to help people apply for it. It is a federal program that is paid out to the states, and then the states distribute the money. And like all government programs, there is an enormous amount of paperwork, and I think that is the number one issue that most people stumble with. It is a reimbursement program. It's not an expense program, so it doesn't pay ahead of time. The families have to pay that money and then submit for reimbursement. We've started to run applications. The program is, what would be the word? Understaffed, and it's taking 90 to 120 days now to get the applications through. However, once those applications are through, they generally can submit the reimbursement within 1 to 2 weeks of that being submitted. Also, the families get 4 years to be able to submit those receipts. So it does go for a long time, and they can collect that reimbursement for 4 years. Approximately 22% of the families that we serve are cases that we would fall into the category of cruelty and a crime. And so what we're going to focus on is predominantly the children, but a lot of the moms that we're working with too have also been a victim. So we're expanding that. However, if anyone walks in and says, hey, I could use some assistance, we will provide that for anybody. So as you look at it, what we're really targeting for the children is that $5,000 for mental health, and that would pay for any kind of copay, out-of-pocket expense that they have to achieve. Maybe the family has a $2,000 deductible that they have to hit, so that could go towards that until they hit that. And then if they can't find the right therapist, maybe we can apply that money to a private pay. So I did talk about how some therapists have moved away from actually accepting insurance now. So this will allow people to get around that. And as long as they can pay for the session, they'll get reimbursed. Next slide, thank you. What I really want to focus on, this is kind of small, but hopefully you guys were able to see it, is that, thank you, our gross profit. So we were budgeted for 236 last year, and we hit 266. And that is with several of our grants not coming through. So we have 2 grants that we're still waiting on. And then what I would tell everybody is one of the big things is Otto Bremer. Otto Bremer is going through a big transition right now, and they're looking at selling off the bank, which is going to change the landscape. They are one of the biggest funders out there, and they are changing the requirements. So it looks like they're going to move to a 5-year minimum age requirement for a nonprofit to be eligible, which would put us for this year under that eligibility. But we will probably apply with Wisconsin CASA, and that's what we did last year, so we assume that we'll be allowed to do that. We're just waiting to hear. They won't even, they're not telling anybody. They're keeping this really hush-hush. No one knows what's going on, but it's supposed to be released this month. So I definitely say pay attention to that one. That one would be a game changer. And then if we jump down to our expenses, I'll go one more slide. I know I'm tight on time here. Really what I would have you look at is total expenditures. So we were budgeted for 222, excuse me. We came in at 169. And that's because I'm a penny pincher. Most people would guess that I like to spend money, but I don't. So I have to have the staff pry my hands open every once in a while and release that credit card so that they can get things that they need. So I feel very good in our net revenue, and that was quite honestly with not all of our revenue coming in. So I think we were about $30,000 off on the revenue, and that was just because sometimes donors change the requirements and move dates around and everything like that. So it becomes a timing issue. Next slide. And any questions on the finances real quick? I know that's always a question. All right. I want to look at our stability here. And so I think this breaks it down a little bit more concisely. Our direct contributions, 2 things. You're going to see organizational contributions and direct contributions. So we saw an inverse on what we were expecting. Our organizational contributions jumped by 10,000, and our direct contributions lagged by about the same amount. So we can't quite figure out what happened there. All in all, we come out to be in a pretty good spot, but we don't know why that was. We kind of feel like through our gala that we had more people purchase tables, but I think that then translated into fewer direct contributions. That's what my gut tells me was what was happening. So, and our expenditures. Thank you. So our future. We now have 2 foundations who have accepted us as a yearly recipient. And this is huge, and I was told that it was huge, and I had to be more excited, but it is really big. And this is what we've been striving for, is to build our reputation, prove that our model works, and we've been able to do that, and they've been able to say that they're going to sign on and fund us year after year. So that's huge. We have 1 more that we're still trying to knock down the door on. 2 more, actually, I should say. We're going to continue to focus on this victim compensation. Like I said, it's 22% of the children we serve, so there are a lot of recipients for that. We're going to continue to strive for serving 50 children. I was going to try and step it up, but I think just kind of keeping it stable this year as we go through some transitions would be good. And then volunteer recruitment for the children. That is one of the ones that I know that we're going to start experiencing now is kind of this rotation as people have been with us now from some of them for 3 years. So I'm sure they're probably getting tired and just want to sit back on a Tuesday afternoon, right? So those are our targets. Probably not super overreaching this year, but I kind of feel that it's a year that we're going to really look at stability. Any questions that I can answer? I went through that really fast.
Could you tell us which 2 foundations they are, or is it top secret?
It's top secret,
All right.
Yeah. However, I did tell the story to another foundation, and they go, well, that sounds like that person. I'm like, wow, you nailed it. So I don't want to throw them under the bus, and I did not seek permission to disclose it, so, yeah.
Are there any other questions for Sean at this time? In just a moment, we'll call on Judge Waterman, but Sean, if you could stick around, maybe we'll have some questions after Judge Waterman.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So, Judge Waterman, of course, is one of our circuit judges and has been involved with CASA from the beginning and has been thoughtful enough to join us today. So I'd like to just hear from Judge Waterman any observations he has about the CASA program.
Thank you. I can report that all 4 judges, excuse me, are very pleased with what CASA has been doing, very satisfied with the progress of the program. And I think there's probably 2 areas that I can highlight. One is the information that we judges receive is superior. In child protection cases where CASA advocates appear, we're dealing with some very serious problems within these families. The problems are dynamic, they're always changing, and they're unique from family to family. So the more information that we as judges receive to help us make decisions, the better our decisions can be, and the better I think the outcomes will be. The CASA advocates are more frequently inside the home than anybody else. They have direct contact with the children and the parents. And the information that they can provide to the judges is unique from what we would get from the attorneys or from the social workers. And I think that helps us helps us to do our job better. The other area that I think is noteworthy are the relationships that the CASA advocates form with the families. They're there for the child in particular, but they also form relationships with the parents. It's hard to describe, but there's a level of suspicion that the families entering the child protection system have with the system. And they don't differentiate between roles of judge and lawyer or social worker. They just all look at people coming from the government with a degree of suspicion. The CASA advocates are not government. They're not controlled by the judges. They're not controlled by anybody, for that matter. They're just ordinary folks from our own community who are volunteering their time to come in and work with these families. And I think it's beneficial to have that type of person come into the system to genuinely offer help because they want to help this family. And I think that the families and the children in particular see them a little bit differently. And I think you can develop a better rapport and to help these families achieve the goals that they want to achieve to get reunification, to abstain from drugs and alcohol, to remove all of the safety issues that led to the child protection case in the first place. So the judges are very happy. We congratulate Sean on all the hard work he's done. He is a tireless advocate for the program, and we see it day in and day out. And also the enthusiasm that we see from the volunteers is wonderful too. They come to court, they share information and share progress, and you can tell they have a real passion for the children that they serve. So we're very happy.
Any questions for Judge Waterman? Judge, thank you for being with us today. Thank you for those very thoughtful comments about the program. I think you got an A+, Sean. If Sean, could you join us back at the podium again? Thank you, Judge. I know you've got a case you've got to get to. If you want to stick around, that's just great. But okay, great. Ken, if you could flash up the last financial, just before this slide, I think.
The one about the sustainability.
Yeah. I wonder, Sean, if you could just comment briefly about the long-term financial stability. And if Ken could also jump in there as to where he thinks we are and if there's any suggestions he might have relative to anything we're doing with regard to the finances, because I know at least a year or two out, we have to be sure we're doing as well as we're doing now.
Yeah, I think, so it's a very hard question to answer. It's throwing darts at a dartboard, and it really depends on those grants. So part of my goal is to form relationships with the foundations and to get that commitment to them to fund us. Because once that commitment comes in, then it becomes the question of growth. Now can we get the foundation to grow with us? So those are the big things that we're trying to accomplish. And like I said, there's 2 foundations that we're still really working on. Otto Bremer will be a very big linchpin in this. So, but until I see what they do with their foundation, I'm not 100% sure. We only have 4 big foundations in our area that we can reach out to. We have much smaller ones, but in all truth, those smaller foundations, the amount that they can give is maybe 3 days to a week's worth of operations. So they're not what we can rely on. So the second part to that is not to fully rely on foundations and to grow our gala experience. So this year we're going to increase our tables. We're bringing in a speaker. We're really targeting, I don't know if you know this, but we just seem to be a prime area for pro athletes and who were raised in foster care. So we've reached out to several of the athletes. We're still waiting for agreements to see if we can get them to agree to the amount that we can pay. But we hope that we can bring them in as a speaker. So that's our goal for trying to close that gap. In 2 years, I do believe that at least we'll be old enough now that we won't be bound by any age restriction that foundations are putting out there, that barrier will be gone. And so then it really becomes about how we write our grants and achieving the performance and then proving our proof of concept. So that's what I'm looking at there. As far as the money that we received from the county, we put that in deferred revenue, and so that pays out every month now. We take disbursement and put it into the revenue stream, and that will cease at the end of 2026.
And I'll call on Administrator Witt if he'd care to augment that in any way.
That was related to what Supervisor Rostino's question had been about, was the balance sheet amount that he was seeing and our contribution towards that. And I told him that was really part of our design. So the design of using the ARPA dollars that the county did was to provide stability and a foundation for CASA so that they can continue to grow and continue to grow their other revenue sources. So it was working exactly as it was designed to.
And I'm probably not reading this very correctly, but on the slide I'd asked you to pull up, Ken, stability. The first 3 items, direct contributions or organizational contributions and grants, and then the fourth one is gross, but the first 3 don't total what the gross is. But I was wondering, what are we missing in a category there to get us to the number in gross?
Events. I just pulled out the 3 key ones that I wanted you to see, but events isn't in there. I didn't put in the rent that we get, that is an in-kind donation from the county. I just really wanted to focus on those big ticket dollar items. So.
Okay, any other questions for Sean? Well, thank you, Sean.
But
and,
have a great day.
Absolutely, you do too. Happy New Year. With that, we'll turn to Administrator Witt and the financial reports.
Thank you. So we're looking at the financial data through November for the time that this report was generated. We're just wrapping up the end of December now. And I guess what I can say is overall, when you're looking at the financial report, it's looking very similar to prior years. It looks very good right now. We will have some December expenses that wrap up. We always have extra wage and benefits in December, not because we pay more, but because that's when the accruals catch up to us. So the first payroll in January really gets rolled back into December because that's when the work was performed. So December always looks higher. So some of the larger net operating profits that you're seeing now will get shrunk down. But going through and looking at them, I mean, other than individual line items that you could pick out, everything's looking pretty good, like interpreters or sheriff's overtime or stuff like that.
Questions for the administrator? Supervisor Ramberg.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the blue or the green and the red in there because then it'll pop it out for me. But I get a little confused with that percent remaining. You turn it red for me, but it's not a negative like the other is. I guess, can you help me out with reading that percent column better?
Yeah, I think when it turns negative and that percent remaining, that's the percent over then. So if you're looking at other professional services on circuit court, that's $2,748 over, that's 22% over.
Yeah, would that be a negative 22.92% then?
It is, yeah.
So it's just not showing a negative.
Yeah, it
on
doesn't
that.
show, yeah, that doesn't show the negative sign there.
That fakes me out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we color coded it, so.
Yeah, that's why I appreciated that. Yeah,
We did
thank you.
something.
Yeah, thank you. Trips me up. I don't have far to fall, but thank you.
It's just in a different font size.
Any other questions for the administrator? I had one that doesn't appear in our budget for the entities that they come to this committee, but we've talked about particularly the one incident of the unfortunate child who has to receive institutional help, and the cost was approaching $500,000. Does that found in the HHS budget, or where does that found?
Yeah, it'll be in the purchase services line, Health and Human Services, under Children's Services. So that's where it is. There's probably 7 different placements, and they range from about, they could be as low as 150, 250 is probably more the average, and then the one is going to be 480,000 per year.
Seeing no more questions, thank you, Mr. Administrator, again. And boy, I'm really starting to feel badly now that we're calling on the medical examiner next. We'll only get to call on her once or twice more. And I always appreciate your reports, Betty. Happy New Year, and what would you have for today?
Okay, well, Happy New Year to everyone here. We are reporting that 2024, we had 980 cases, which was 150 cases over last year. We are projecting that that number will probably increase, if not double, next year. So this is what it's going to look like for at least the next 10 to 15 years. These cases will continue to grow. So for you guys, really thinking about full-time investigators is going to be in your future. What we're seeing is a huge increase in the found down and the length of time that folks are found down. And this brings a lot of different nuances to everybody that's doing the scene. So like for law enforcement, they're seeing things, we're seeing it together, but this found down is very disturbing. It's a natural death, but it's a very disturbing thing to see. And we're now seeing it almost on a daily basis. And it's a huge deal. And a lot of it is preventable. And the number one cause is sepsis. And it's sepsis due to untreated foot care. So untreated foot care in the elderly is very, very common. And we see ulcers, we see gangrene, we see a lot of different things. So that there is really going to be probably a big public health issue that public health is going to have to talk about. There's a lot of people that live at home that really don't have people, or they don't share with their family what's going on in their foot care. So that's really, when we talk about prevention and stuff, there's going to be more to focus on healthcare and preventative healthcare coming in the future. Last Friday, as a matter of fact, we had 3 scenes at the same time. We were able to triage and go to the 3 different scenes in 3 different municipalities and not disturb or make sure that we released law enforcement in a timely manner. I responded in a private vehicle. I had Jason respond in the van, and then Jeff went to the other side of the county in his private vehicle, and Jason circled around with the van, and because it holds 2 people, and picked up that one too. So we were able to get that all taken care of in a very timely fashion and had we not had the ability to do that, that would have left law enforcement in those two other municipalities out there for up to, it could have been 4 or plus hours. So we're stretching it, but we're able to get things done. As of last week, December 23rd, there's new HIPAA laws that are in place. And now every time we request medical information, we have to sign this new HIPAA law stuff. And it's really extending the time that we get the information, and it's also going to change the way we do business currently with other agencies. And then also, we have 2 staff that will be presenting at the state Wisconsin Coroners and Medical Examiners Conference at the end of January, so that's really a good thing for us. And and we're meeting with the Amish people next week to start talking about implementing a DNR program with them. When we talked to him, Ruben, he was really open to it, and it's going to be really figuring out their medical professional is in Augusta primarily. So if they can get their folks there, then and get a DNR, then when they call that their person had passed away, we don't have to send out ambulance. It would just be law enforcement in our office, which is what they want. So, but right now, because they don't have a DNR, there's a lag and stuff. So that's what we're going to work on next week. And Jeff Kennett and I will be, and Tom Boyer will be meeting with Ruben and the elders to start talking about that. And I think I might also invite Health and Human Services to kind of see, how this conversation is going to happen. So that's about it.
Questions for the medical examiner?
Yeah, well, not a question. I just wanted to put in a plug with Patty's retirement here on March 31st. We have started the recruitment for her successor. So if you know anyone that likes her field of work, anybody at all, that recruitment is now open and available on the county's website. And I did want to thank Patty for her couple of decades worth of work for St. Croix County. One of the things that she says is the way that a county treats their dead demonstrates the commitment to the organization. And I think Patty has done an excellent job representing us in that way. I didn't get that quote exactly right, but thank you.
Thank you. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure working for you.
Gotta use your mic.
Well, that might change what I said then. Thank you, and it's been an absolute honor and pleasure working for the county and serving the residents of St. Croix County.
Well, and I'm sure we'll have more to say about that as we get closer to March 31st as well. Just a couple quick questions, if nobody else had any. Patty, you mentioned sepsis and foot care was a big problem, and I'm sure that, well, I shouldn't say I'm sure, but I know we're fortunate to have at least one of our members is on HHS and can bring that message to that body and the emphasis that might need to be applied. But if you had any concrete ideas as to how we might address that, not necessarily now, but in the next month or so, or how you might want to address this to HHS, that would probably be very welcome. I know in the past you've also mentioned that falls are a great, great problem, particularly for seniors. And so I'm going to ask 3 quick questions. You can comment on all 3 at the same time. So then there was falls. Are we still seeing that? 2, what kind of, are we seeing any increases in deaths due to overdoses? And how is our suicide issues coming? So 3 in a row there. Drugs, overdoses, suicide, and falls.
Suicides, yes. Our numbers aren't higher. They're consistent, but it's the same demographic. And with our suicides, it's mostly males that have a history of ADD or ADHD and have had a hard time getting into society after high school. And so that's kind of the target target group there. Yes, there are women who die by suicide, but it's far more prevalent in men. Overdoses, yes, we still have overdoses. And again, they're in our normal range. So when you look at the national statistics and everything, we're on the low side. So it's yes, it's there, it's consistent, we have them, but it's not alarming like it was in the early 2010s when they were all the time. One of the issues is with overdoses is Narcan. So Narcan is a lifesaver. So you have people who have been rescued with Narcan. I'm hearing stories, and I'm sure the sheriff probably knows just from how many times you guys give out Narcan, of people and family members and other addicts, 10, 15 times to one person over years of time. So, it's really a game of Russian roulette when it comes to addiction and opioids and Narcan. So yes, it's saving lives, but on the flip side, it's extending this addiction problem. And that I'm glad we have Narcan, but it's really complicated the work that law enforcement does. So I don't see as many lethal overdoses, but I'm sure law enforcement and EMS would say that they see an uptick of Narcan overdoses. Am I correct on that? Yeah. So Narcan has been a game changer. Falls, most of our falls that we're seeing now are unwitnessed falls that most of them, they're in either assisted living or in a nursing home. But it's that if not but for thing. So you may be in a nursing home and you may be on hospice for dementia, but if you fell and broke your hip, if not but for the fall, you would not have died that day. So that then becomes an accidental death. So you can see how with our elderly population, with the if not but for part of that, it's changing our statistics and it's changing the work that we do. That there makes it so then we have to sign the death certificate. We have to do the investigations. We're the ones that sign off on that. No doctors will sign off on anything, and state law will not allow them to sign off on any falls or fractures. So that's how it changes our statistics.
See no other questions? Thank you again for today and all your years of service, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month as well, I presume. Requests for future agenda items. I think I'll raise this now. What we've done every year is we've asked your input of the committee as to how frequently we should meet. We've been meeting about 9 or 10 times a year. We've taken a couple months off that we kind of plan around, one in the summer, one in the winter. So I would just ask if there's anybody's schedules that would suggest that that's a good way to continue. If we don't have very much to consider, I've taken the liberty of canceling our meeting as we did in December, but I think that was the only one we canceled during the year. Other than that, we had planned non-meetings, I think, last year in February and August for the summer. But I'm very flexible on anything. So if anybody has input into that now, we could maybe talk about that. If not, maybe as a straw man, we could throw out, would we like to not meet in February or August? As of now, we didn't have a terribly heavy agenda today, and I was thinking probably we might have a heavier one in February, but we definitely have to meet either February or March. So just depending on your schedules, would one suggest, or if the administrator has any conflicts?
As it should be.
Well, maybe I could throw out that we'll have probably a heavier agenda in February then, and we'll maybe try to think in terms of not doing it in March. But I know we have to have meetings in April and May because we'll be getting into a number of bigger issues then. So very tentatively, I'll just throw out we'll plan on not meeting in March and August, and then we can change all this as we go along. Okay, so that's one of the we'll plan on that then, Janet, for planning purposes. Now we get to and no other requests for future agenda items. Now we'll get to a pleasant thing. Now, at our last meeting, I think we announced, but our Director of Child Support was not with us, Ms. Plunkett. And so we would like to, at this point, I think, call on Lisa to talk a little bit about the terrific award that your department received from the WCSA Agency, Child Support Agency of the Year. Lisa.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, our agency won the 2024 WCSC, the Wisconsin Child Support Association Award for Agency of the Year. We do outstanding work with not just the county, but with the state Bureau of Child Support. So we have several individuals that work on different committees. We're very involved. We're the first to volunteer and accept any pilots for any new upcoming programs or policies or procedures. We have a great corporation council that is involved in our WCSEA. We continue to meet benchmarks. We work very well as a team, so everyone is just great to work with, and they love their jobs. So we deserve that reward for all of the hard work that we put into it.
Well, thank you very much. That's really good news to start the new year, to hear from you and hear about that. Thanks, Lisa, for all you do and your leadership of that very good department, because we know you've got some great people, and they've been able to come down and join us in the past, and individuals within that have received awards, but it all starts at the top as well. Any other questions or observations for Lisa? Again, thank you so much. Any other announcements? Oh, yeah. That's right. Sheriff, we're so modest over there. Could you just tell us a little bit about that? Because I remember reading about it and seeing it, but please comment about that and any other highlights you'd care to raise.
Thank you. So the Badger State Sheriff's Association, this was their first year that they created this Sheriff of the Year recognition. And I was fortunate to be nominated along with 6 other sheriffs throughout the state. And I was very fortunate and honored to be recognized as the Sheriff of the Year for 2024. As I put out to our staff, I proudly accepted that as really a group award. It was a recognition from the other sheriffs of probably the trials that we've gone through over the last year and a half, how we've responded. But that response was a group effort. And so on December 3rd, I believe, 13th, in Stevens Point, they presented the award. A number of command staff had gone down as well. I recognized them as well as the surrounding sheriffs that responded and assisted during our week in May. So I was very, again, humbled and honored to accept that really on behalf of the entire office and the support from within the region that was recognized throughout all the other sheriffs in the state. So thank you.
Well, clearly on behalf of the committee, thank you very much. It was just an awesome award and very deserving and very thoughtful of you to share the great input from the other members of the department and what they did. Because you have had, the last 2 years have been very, very trying years, and they were a lot of challenges that were met. So thank you again, Sheriff, and congratulations. Any other announcements at this point? None. Our date of our next meeting is February 6th. And with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.